All right, good evening, everybody. How's everyone doing tonight? Thank you so much for coming, even if it's raining outside. This workshop is called, again, Harnessing Technology for Future Global Citizens. And my name is Asuka Ichikawa. I'm from the Japan Foundation Center of Global Partnership in New York, and I'll be your MC for today. I'm here today with my colleagues, Marian Celis and Takeshi Yoshida. And on behalf of CGP, we wanted to thank you to University of Mary Washington, and especially Dr. Christy Irish for supporting us so much for this event. And because our theme of the night is technology and cross-cultural education, we're really happy to have our event live stream today. So as you can see on the camera right there, if you don't mind, can you join me in saying hi to the live stream viewers right there? Hi, thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for doing this. I know this is a bit cheesy, but thank you. All right, so I've got a couple of housekeeping notes. First is that this event will have some media coverage. So Takeshi will be doing most of the filming, or so to speak, picture taking. So if you would not like to be in the pictures, please just inform him. And the second note is that for those of you joining us online, we've sent out the link on Padlet, so please feel free to type in any questions during the event to the speakers, and we'll try to include that in the Q&A. And then I'd just like to go over the flow of the day. So you have the agenda on your table, as you can see, and basically the event is divided up into 3 parts. So the first part will be the lecture by Shanti from Kizuna Cross Cultures, followed by the hands-on workshop by Marianne. And then we'll have a short lecture on Japanese cuisine from Minae, who works at this university. So some of you may be familiar with her already. So with that, we hope it's going to be both an inspiring and appetizing night for everyone. And without further ado, I'd just like to invite Dr. Iris and Marianne for the opening remarks. So thank you very much for coming today, and we hope you enjoy the night. Thank you.
Yeah, if we could give them a big round of applause for being here. I just want to welcome everyone from the Japan Foundation and the Center for Global Partnership. We are excited to have them here. One of our missions in the College of Education is to promote diverse learners and culture, and how we can do that is by learning about different cultures. So we are super excited that they have traveled all the way to us.
Thank you. Oh, okay, thank you. Okay. Thank you, Christy. Hi, everyone. My name is Marianne. I am part of the Japan Foundation Center for Global Partnership. On behalf of my organization, I would like to thank you, as well as University of Mary Washington College of Education, for co-organizing this event with us. We are happy to have those sitting in this audience who are teachers, or those hoping to become teachers, or those even really interested in education or in Japanese culture to be part of this event tonight, both in person and in live stream. As a former teacher myself, I am very heartened to see all of you sitting here today, at least somewhat interested in finding new ways to expand your classrooms or your future classrooms. So today, we are here to really show you how technology can create global citizens, right? So the first step always when we foster global citizens is to create global competency in them. According to the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the definition of global competence is the capacity to examine local, global, and intercultural issues, to understand and appreciate the perspectives and worldviews of others, and to engage in open interactions with people from different cultures, and to act for a collective well-being. And there's numerous reasons why we should educate for global competency. We now live in an interconnected, diverse, and rapidly changing world with changing markets, which students in the future must learn how to participate and succeed in. There are numerous benefits, such as increasing cultural understanding, one's own employability, as well as being able to responsibly use media and online platforms. Global competence has become so important and necessary that in 2018, it became part of PISA, the Program for International Student Assessments, which has traditionally not only measured literacy and numeracy in science, that's how crucial it is right now to have global competency. So, and of course, everybody knows quite well as educators how important technology is in shaping classrooms. It could provide wonderful tools for 21st century learning, providing vital skills to compete in competitive markets. Not only that, but technology for global competency can be used to effectively make meaningful connections to people, places, and cultures more than ever before, which is what really brings us to here today. We at the Japan Foundation Center for Global Partnership are aware of the power of technology and aware of the urgent need for global citizenship and global understanding. But most of all, we are aware of the power of you as teachers to being the key in developing the next generation of global citizens. We hope that after today, you are able to take some knowledge and resources that may be useful about Japan. You may see on your desk, we have a couple of resources that are free that you should take advantage of. And I hope that after this session, that many of you will become a little bit interested in learning about Japan or even traveling to Japan as well. Thank you for your time. Okay. So, with that being said, I would like to move to the next part of the agenda. I am happy to introduce somebody very wonderful and very dear to us here at CGP. Ms. Shanti Shoji is the Vice President and co-founder of Kizuna Across Cultures, which aims to promote global awareness and communicative competence through virtual exchange. She has extensive experience in international exchange and cross-cultural communication. So Shanti, I will pass the floor to you.
All right, hello everybody. As she said, my name is Shanti, and I came from DC, so not very far. It's my first time here on this campus, but it's very beautiful and reminded me of my university days back in Oregon, actually. But it's great to be here with all of you tonight. I'm very excited to be a part of this discussion regarding how technology can be used in the classroom to bring global competence to students. And not only sharing kind of as an example what we are doing, but I'm excited for the workshop afterwards to hear about all the ideas you have because as you'll see, virtual exchange, which I will talk about, really has limitless possibilities. And it's just about how creative we are and kind of creating a fun program for students. But before I start with that, I wanted to get to know all of you a bit better. And I wanted to say also hello, Vaughn Sensei. It's so good to see you. She's one of the outstanding teachers we've worked with over the past year. So it's so nice to have you here tonight. But I'm curious, who has participated, you can just raise your hand, in some sort of cross-cultural program? It doesn't have to be like traveling abroad. It could even be you went to like a Japan event that was being held in your town or anything. Raise your hands high. Okay, great. Next, who has used technology to collaborate with people they know on a project or something like that? Yay, it's 2019. Everyone's using technology. Okay, so that was, I think, everybody. Who has used technology to collaborate on a project or something with people you've never met before? Raise your hands high. Okay, maybe a third or about a half, so that's pretty good. So today I'm going to talk about a form of using technology that allows people to connect with people they've never met before. But one thing I wanted to kind of point out is that I'm just showcasing an example of what can be done. And, you know, this is a specific example between the US and Japan that incorporates language learning. But this can the kind of components of this can be used with anything. So you can just kind of take, just know that this can be applied to many things. So just real quick, kind of an overview of what we'll be doing tonight. I'll be introducing the virtual exchange Global Classmates that myself and some friends created some years back, and how that works and how students are learning global competence through that. And then we'll look at, okay, how do I do this? If you wanted to do this, what are some key things you need to have in mind to be successful? And especially if you're going global with that, if you connect with people from a different, well, it could be global in a different country, but it could also be just a different culture, even in the US, and there'd be important key components. And then some virtual exchange resources. But before I jump into all that, I thought I'd tell a little bit about myself so you can understand kind of my background and how I got to where I am today. But I'm from Portland, Oregon originally, so for me, Japan was my next door global neighbor. For me, Europe was so far away, I couldn't even imagine, but Japan seemed very close. And I come from a very family that has a lot to do with international exchange. So I always knew my mom had this big box under her bed that I would pull out and dig through all these treasures she had from her trip to Nepal when she was an exchange student, or we would host Japanese students in the summer. So kind of international exchange and kind of thinking outside of my bubble was something I always enjoyed. And that just carried on through my life. I studied Japanese in high school and then did exchange programs. And after college, I worked on the JET program. Does anyone know the JET program? A few people. Okay, so the JET program, I have to plug it really quickly. Anybody can participate. You don't have to know any Japanese. And it's a teaching program. So you also do not have to have a teaching degree, but if you do, that's a bonus. But you're hired by the Japanese government to go team teach with a Japanese teacher of English in public elementary, middle school, or high schools. And you're paid. And you're all over in Japan. It's a really great experience, so I highly recommend it if you'd like to do that. You just have to have a 4-year bachelor's degree, that's it. So JET program, you can just Google it. So I did the JET program and then worked for international exchange program in Tokyo for 4 years. All right, so let's jump into the program. So Kizuna Across Cultures. This is something that came about because of the horrible earthquake that happened in Japan in 2011. I'm sure everybody remembers. So because I had lived in Japan and taught there, I really wanted to do something for the youth who were living there. And some of my Japanese friends and I put our heads together and we were like, the internet is free, so let's use the internet. And we ended up coming up with this idea, Global Classmates. So we have been doing this since 2012, finishing our 7th year now, and we've connected nearly 8,300 students in over 150 high schools throughout the US and Japan, one of those being Hayfield Secondary, a high school where Von Sensei teaches. And because we use the internet and it's very cheap, we can reach students all across the US and Japan. We have a school in Japan this year that's on the island, the Goto Island, which is part of the prefecture of Nagasaki, but in their high school there's 27 students. And it's very difficult for them to leave the island or to have really any kind of outside connection. So this program has been really huge for them. So things like that we can do. And also, the program is fully funded. For example, the US Embassy in Tokyo funds it, so it's completely free to teachers and students to participate. So how do we do this? So we take one class in the US studying Japanese at high school, and one class in Japan studying English, and we connect them on an e-classroom where for 6 months they communicate with one another. And this is what it looks like. So it's a Facebook-like platform called Schoology. Has anyone heard of Schoology? Okay, you have, okay. So it's a learning management system that a lot of school districts in the United States use, but it's kind of like Blackboard and Facebook in one. We use it because it's free. We're a very small nonprofit. Whatever we can get for free, we use. But you know, it's password protected and all of that, all of those things that schools need to have. But what's kind of different about our virtual exchange is that not only do we connect students, but they both learn language from one another because they're both studying one another's languages. So this was Kana from Japan was sharing about Japanese traditional sweets, or no, actually food. There's tea, some yakitori, and wagashi. And then just like Facebook, they can like a post, and you can see they write both in the language they study and their native language. So this allows them to practice what they're learning, but also help their partner classmate in learning their language. So for 6 months, September through February, for at least 1 hour a week, they log on in their classroom on their computers and are connected to their students. Due to the time difference of these two countries, most of the program is asynchronous with this type of kind of back and forth engagement. And they do all different types of topics, like, you know, their favorite food or their favorite music, and things like, if you could be anyone for one day, who would you be and why? It gets very interesting comments. So this is the bulk of the exchange. But to help kind of connect students, despite them being basically on the other side of the world from one another, we have two special projects. The first one is a gift exchange. So each class boxes up gifts for one another, ships it to the US and to Japan, and then the teacher videotapes it, their students opening it, and posts that video on the platform. And then the students get so excited to see like that the handmade bracelet they made is now in Japan, and their like partner classmate Kana-chan is super happy about it. Or the students in the US try Japanese umeboshi candy. It's really sour. So it really allows them to connect with one another, and then they can say, you know, thank you. So like Moika in Japan, she was connected with a high school in Hawaii. So they sent these like brownie lava macadamia nut cookies. So she was so excited to try that from Hawaii. And they'll also do like these types of, sorry, I'm trying to figure this out. Like they all wrote personal notes that they can do. So we try and find lots of ways for them to really connect. And then we also have video koshien, or our video competition, where each school can submit a 3-minute video in the language of what they're studying. So in Japan, it'll be in English. For the Americans, it'll be in Japanese. And this was, every year we have a different theme. This year they did Our Happiness, and we make it a really big deal. We have former ambassadors, top leaders in business, in non-government sector as well, as judges and providing comments. And the top school gets a trophy, and things like that. So not only is this a great way to just have the students kind of collaborate on something physically within their own space together, but it's also a great way for kind of cross-cultural learning to happen. So, you know, this, for example, this year we have 33 high schools in each country that we're working with, so 66 high schools in total. And we had about 40 high schools participate. So that means students in Japan get to see videos from 20 different areas of the United States. So the United States isn't just New York, or, you know, it's like rural Nebraska. But we also have Stuyvesant High School in the middle of Manhattan participating. So it really allows a lot of diversity, and for them to see the real America, or the real Japan. So that's kind of the program, and this gets more to, I think, what all of you are interested in, but how to kind of support and create a good virtual program within your class. So we provide coordinators to each pair. So each coordinator These are some of our lovely coordinators. We were having a training meeting, but they're all bilingual, English, Japanese, and they become kind of a team with so it'll be the one teacher in each country and the coordinator, and the three of them together become a team. The coordinator trains the teachers, they provide guidance, they make a plan for the whole program, they check in with them weekly. This teacher training and support is very important with virtual exchange. I'll get into that a bit more. So that's one thing we do. And then also senpai, which is the Japanese word for kind of like mentor, or camp counselor almost. It's that's almost more better than mentor. We assign one senpai or two senpai to each pair, and they engage actually with the students. So they also support the students in their learning. They kind of show how to have good engagement online. They can provide their own experience of studying abroad in Japan or the US, things like that. So this program, what kind of impact does it have on students? And that's why we're all here today, right? To learn how technology can really impact students regarding global competence. So we take analysis very seriously. So last year we had 1,500 students respond to our survey, which was about 85%. We read every comment that they wrote and analyzed all the data. And from that, this is what we found from just last year. But 95% of the students were satisfied with the program and enjoyed it. But as you can see, nearly 90% of the students said that the knowledge of the other country increased. They're now more motivated and excited to go visit the other country. Their motivation to continue to study and to communicate in the language they're studying increased, and also their desire to seek other kind of global experiences increased as well. So this is really hard to do with 1,500 students with a small amount of money in person, right? Like, as we know, in-person exchanges are really expensive, and of course, they're so important. But we believe that virtual exchange, or putting technology into the classroom and allowing students to connect with other people, can really impact students in ways that we just can't do on that scale. So it's my dream that every student would have a virtual exchange type of experience in their education at some point. And that's where all of you come in to try and help and get that into the classroom. And some just kind of stories that we've had that have been exciting. It's kind of hard to track our alumni because they're high school students. We don't have access to their actually names or email. So we kind of hear stories from teachers. But I do know that, for example, one student who participated 6 years ago in Japan, he was so impressed that Americans were studying Japanese and they were trying so hard that he wanted to continue that. So he's now a Japanese language teacher in Japan to foreigners in Japan wanting to learn Japanese. Also, we work with private and public high schools, mostly public. We really want to work with students who would not otherwise have such an opportunity. And 2 years ago, we had an alternative high school participate, and we were a bit worried. It was in Japan, so they're students that really never have gone to school before. They have a hard time communicating even in their own language, but we had an excellent teacher, so we thought, okay, let's try it. And it worked really well. So the teacher told us that the students, after the program, not only did their English get a little bit better, but they actually were more open to communicating with others physically in their space, and that they could communicate better in Japanese. And that they felt special, maybe for the first time in a long time, that they could connect with students in the US. So there's so many different impacts that these types of exchanges or using technology can provide, more than you can imagine when you create a program. So that's a virtual exchange, but just to add on, 2 years ago, it was our 5th anniversary, and we decided we wanted to do something more. So we created a Global Classmate Summit. So we take 6 students from the US and Japan who just finished the virtual exchange, and we bring them to Washington, D.C. for a 10-day in-person exchange. And thank you very much to CGP. They have been funding this program for the past 2 years, the only 2 years we've been doing it. But so this program is also completely funded, and students get to go free of charge. But this is kind of shows another way that using technology with students can accelerate learning, but because they've already been talking to each other for 6 months before they meet each other, when they meet each other, they bond so quickly, they're much more kind of vulnerable, allowing them to learn from each other more quickly. So we found that having a virtual exchange or online learning component before an in-person exchange can really help a lot. So that was all about that program. Okay. So you're like, okay, now I want to have technology in my classroom, but how do I do this? So these are just some really, these are really critical key points for virtual exchange, but I would say if you're doing any type of collaborative learning, especially with maybe someone you don't know, these are really important to keep in mind. One is, I'd say the first thing is a committed partner. So for us, for example, Von Sensei, when she was connected with a teacher in Japan, is that teacher really committed? Because these two teachers can't physically see each other, they're not in each other's space, they have to rely on each other to be present and to do what they're supposed to do to continue the program. Because you're facilitating a program together collaboratively, but you're doing things very differently. So first of all, are you committed? You should be. But is the partner committed? Are they dedicated? Can you communicate well? Those things are all really important. Also, up to speed IT environment, of course, right? It's online. But does everyone have access to some sort of device? The platform that you're using, do the schools, for example, in Japan, especially rural Japan, when they all go to log online, all the computers freeze. So, testing that type of thing is really important. And it can really hinder the exchange if they can't ever really get online. Having an engaging environment. For our program, this means we do it in class. So it's not an after-school thing. It's something the teachers implement right into their curriculum and into class time. And also the teachers kind of make it fun and exciting. We don't allow teachers to correct students online. We want the teachers to feel safe and enjoy playing with playing and getting to know how to use the language they're learning. And also monitoring is really important. So that's kind of the the coordinator point that we have. You want to make sure things going well. You want to check in, tweak it if you need to. And also assessment is so important. Were your outcomes met? If they weren't, why not? What could you do better? The first year we did this, it didn't go very well, but we just keep tweaking it every year, and it's gotten better and better, so definitely that's important. And going global, big things, time difference is a huge one for us, so we do asynchronous things. Is that an issue where you're at? If not, then you can probably do a lot more Skype and things like that. Language, for us, that's a huge part of ours, and we use that challenge to our benefit. But, is it with a country that speaks English, or how will you do that? We have a translator. IT feasibility, it'll be very different from country to country, school to school. Making sure everyone's on the same page is really important. And then cultural differences. This goes into learning differences as well. How great are they with IT? In Japan, we have teachers that don't have email addresses that we can send an attachment to. So there's a lot of things you have to think about that may be atarimae, may be very normal for you, but aren't so normal in the other person's culture or where they're at. And sorry, I'm running through this, but I realize I'm over time. So quickly going through this. And then some virtual exchange resources. First of all, there's the Virtual Exchange Coalition. And they are kind of a partner that introduces a lot of different types of virtual exchange, and they're there to support virtual exchange. Also, the State Department, this toolkit right here, it just came out like a week ago. It's free. They have a lot of great resources, so I highly recommend checking that out. And then the last four, Solia, Global Nomads, Stevens Initiative, and iEarn, are all organizations that do various types of virtual exchange. iEarn is a bit like a dating site for virtual exchange, meaning if you have an idea and you want to do it but you don't have a partner, you put your idea up there, and if someone finds your idea and wants to do it, then they can do that. So that's it. Thank you so much. And I think maybe there's a Q&A that we're going to do after. Okay, thank you so much.
Great, thank you so much. And as this chair follows me, wonderful. Okay, well, okay. I'll just, thank you. Thank you. I know, right? Well, anyways, thank you, Shanti, so much for this wonderful talk. I'm always really impressed with how much you can really do with so little resources, financial resources. I've had the pleasure myself. I've had the pleasure myself to attend the Global Summit this last year, and I was always impressed how bright and young these students are. So I'd like to take some questions from the audience. Does anybody have a question here? Oh, anybody? Thoughts, minds? How about anybody from live stream? Nobody?
No?
Okay. Well, oh, yep. Go ahead, please. Loud voice. What's your name?
Oh, wait, hold on just a sec. We want to make sure you have the mic.
Okay, well.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Paige.
Paige, right?
Yeah, Paige.
Paige,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's okay. Don't worry. Did you ever have any teachers, start this program and then say, "Oh wait, I can't do it," and or they just didn't make enough time in their schedule to do it because there's a lot to have. Yeah.
Great question. That's a great question. So is it okay if I stand? I just feel like I can't see everyone's faces. So yes, that's so important, and that's that first big one of committed partner. So we have, teachers don't pay to participate, but we do have them, which always makes people a little bit more feel responsible, for their commitment. But we do have a teacher agreement, and we lay out what their commitment is. They have to ensure 1 hour of participation each week for the 6 months. They have to attend a training session. They have to ensure that their students and themselves will fill out exit surveys or surveys we ask. So we make it very clear from the beginning and through all of our trainings what's required of them. And, we've learned over the years, like if a teacher pulls out or a teacher becomes MIA, we've had that where it's hard to get a hold of a teacher, so then things are on hold. But because we're getting funding, we have to have success. So we've gotten better at selecting the teachers, I think, and finding outstanding teachers like Von Sensei. But it's just about being transparent, but also knowing what you need them to do. But it's very important. If you're not transparent about that and it's not clear, it can derail the entire exchange. Yeah. Great question.
Anybody else? No? Nobody from live stream? Okay. Well, I actually have a question. Oh, you want to stand or you want to sit? Okay, fine, thank you. So you mentioned in your kind of pipeline that you need a committed partner, right? And so my question is what if they would like to be committed, but there are some school barriers? What would happen in that kind of case?
Yes. So especially working with schools all over the United States and all over Japan. You're working with different school districts, different state requirements, all of that. So one is kind of creating a program that has a framework, but it's also flexible. So school barriers, for example, most schools, even in the US, I don't think they can access Facebook. So we had to find a platform that would be accessible on all, at all schools. So that was Schoology. Then we found out, okay, in Japan, it might be here too, but definitely in Japan, they don't have access to YouTube, they don't have access to Vimeo, they don't have access to like really some schools Google. So, we've been doing this 7 years now, and every year we've learned a little bit more, but one is part of our application process for schools in Japan is we created a dummy account, and they use a student computer and pretend they are a student and log in and create an account. And if they can create an account, then it'll work on their computers. So those barriers are big. Also, just school systems and kind of cultural barriers not cultural barriers, cultural differences that play into things that could be barriers. For example, in the United States, if I present to a group of teachers who teach Japanese teachers, the majority of them are like, oh my gosh, I want this because it's authentic material and I can't do this, so sign me up. But in Japan, if their principal is not okay with it and their principal has to get an okay from the Board of Education, it's not going to happen. So you have to understand how to navigate each system, hence the background of teaching in Japan, but also being a student in the US and working with Japanese people who grew up going to school in Japan was really important for us to create a program that works both countries, both languages. Also, all of our materials are provided in English and Japanese. But again, this is very specific to us. There's a lot of countries in the world where you could just probably do it all in English and it would be fine. Even in the United States, I keep saying I don't have the time or capacity, but I would love to do virtual exchange with like inner city youth and like rural students, especially right now. I feel like we need it so badly. We have our own cultural divides here that we need to work on, and virtual exchange just allows people to talk about things and like have a distance and a space. They can think about what they want to say and then write it out, and allows them to get to know each other. And then you can kind of approach difficult topics if you want. But yeah, it can be used in a lot of different ways. I got a bit off topic, sorry.
That's okay, great, wonderful, thank you. I think we can only probably take one more question. No more anything else? Oh, okay, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kaylee, and my question is, for this program, is it the type of, I was just curious, is it the type of program where you do it for 6 months and that's it? Or is this something like the students want to continue, like if they want to continue building that relationship as they learn Japanese throughout the school year? I mean, not, but like the next school year. So something like that, because I think it's cool to build that relationship and if it's able to go any further.
Great question. So yes, we definitely want them to continue. We don't want to just connect them to learn Japanese and end. Like our whole point is like get to know each other. The biggest thing they always say is like, oh, I didn't realize how similar we are. Like like they like to hang out with their friends and do sports or, whatever after school. So just realizing, kind of humanizing the other, I think is really important as well. So we want that to continue. We ask that during the program, that's one of kind of those agreements with the teacher, but that all communication happens on the platform, which is all in a transparent space. There's no side chat room or anything. So for those 6 months, it happens there. And then at the end of the program, we have the final topic is a farewell topic where they share what they enjoyed about the program, and then they can also share like their Instagram account or their Snapchat account. They don't have Facebook. And so that's actually happening right now because the program ends the end of February. So just yesterday I was looking at some students and they're like, here's my Instagram account. Like Let's like stay connected. You can talk to me whenever you want. And I met one of the summit participants. I don't know, I can't think of her name right now. It's not coming to me. That you met, but she told me that all of the summit participants from this past summer in 2018, there's 12 of them. They have their own Snapchat group, and they're like Snapchatting each other all the time. Or she also said, Tatiana from Virginia, actually, she said that, yeah, like I had this report I had to do in Japanese, but I didn't know, so I kept asking Momoka, like, what do I write? Like, how do I write this? So it's really exciting to see that continue. We have heard a story of like one student going to see their partner classmate. So we really want that, yeah, to continue on. We don't want it to stop.
Thank you. We've got one question from Palette, so Dr. Irish is going to read it out loud.
The question from the viewer is, do teachers share with you how they use the exchange to meet curriculum guidelines, i.e. how do the teachers do the exchange with the curriculum they must cover? So within their standards, how are they covering that?
So our program again has the, we worked with Japanese language teachers here in the US to kind of create our core framework and curriculum. So it was based on a teacher's knowledge of that. However, just the nature of what it is, it already meets all of those core standards. I'm sure Vaughn Sensei could talk much more about this than I could, but you know, it's authentic material. It allows them to practically use what they're learning. They're gaining empathy. They're allowed to use the language. So it's just by nature of what it is, it's meeting those curriculum. I just had a teacher tell me yesterday that her students took the midterm Japanese test and they all did really well. And she can tell that their writing and reading of Japanese through this has helped them write like their essay for the midterm. So it's definitely meeting, yeah, a lot of those core criteria.
Okay, great. So thank you so much, Shanti. So can we have a round of applause for her? Great. Thank you so much. Great. Okay.
All right, thank you so much, Shanti and Marianne and everyone for asking questions. Now we'd like to move on to a 5-minute break before the hands-on workshop. So please feel free to move around, stretch a little bit, and then Marianne will moderate the next session. And in this workshop, we'll be using one computer per table. So if anyone could volunteer for that, that'll be really great. And Marianne will further describe what's going to happen. So
Okay,
thank
great.
you.
So 3 minutes?
3 minutes?
Let's do 3 minutes. This three. I want to eat, so let's keep going, okay?
All right, 3 minutes.
3 minutes, be back in here. Okay, thank you. Two minutes.
All right, everybody. Hopefully everyone's a little bit refreshed. We're going to move on to the next session of this event, which is the hands-on workshop for all of you, moderated by Marianne. So I'm going to pass it on to you, Marianne.
Okay, great. Thank you, Asuka. So great. So this session, you guys are gonna work. I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to work for it. So right now we're gonna have a teacher workshop. And so we will be using one educational online resource. It's called teachjapan.org. Okay, teachjapan.org. And remember I said, or actually Asuka said that we need one laptop per table, right? So you're gonna need that, okay? So amongst you guys decide who's gonna be the laptop person. Oh, okay, there's gonna be some, all right, so what is teachjapan.org? It is an online resource, as I had mentioned, but it's also a clearinghouse of art museums, and they kind of compiled all together all of these Asian-related resources so you can learn about Japan. So I'm actually going to demo for you. So if you go on the teachjapan.org website, ta-da! It's very cute. You can see lots of different subjects here, right? Stories and literature, tea warrior government, tea traditions, festivals, animals and art. You might seem familiar that you might have some of those topics on that table that you have. So if you click on any one of these, boom, you can get different types of teachers' resources according to grade level and resource type. It's kind of cool, yeah. So as you can see, we have things from Japan Society, the Denver Art Museum, the Freer Sackler, I can keep going, the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. So if you click on any of them, it'll take you straight to the website. And then they have their own kind of different types of, they have slides, they have different types of artwork. Let's click on one of these. And they have some questions and things, and other resources that actually provide like lesson plans for you too. So take a gander. Well, actually, I'll tell you what to do later. So it's a pretty neat website that you'll be using today. So you guys do have some group work today. So as you may see, there are groups of 5 to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And each of you has a subject on each table. For example, this is stories and literature, warrior and government, tea traditions, animals and art, beliefs, so on and so forth. So you're going to actually explore that subject for the next hour or so, but not for too long. So explore the Teach Japan website, maybe 5-10 minutes. Use that one laptop in your group to kind of see what you've got according to your subject. And after that, you're going to choose one resource, whether it be a piece of artwork, a video, an art, anything really. As a group, you're going to decide, and as a group, you're going to create a lesson plan. So, for your one group, I'll come around with a USB, and I have a sample lesson template here. All the way from title of lesson, objective, other sorts of things. As you may see in your on your table, there's a Japan Foundation purple folder. If you open it, surprise, here's the standards of learning. I'm sure you are quite familiar. I actually chose the social studies and the world language. So you can kind of refer to that quickly. I'm sure you're quite all fluent in the standards of learning at this point, and use that as some sort of guide as you create your lesson plan. And, oh no, that's not it. And then so when you're done, you're gonna share. So after the whole activity, we'll take maybe 5-10 minutes, and you can choose one representative from each group to come up here, and then we'll have the resource. You just tell us the resource, and we will throw it up on the screen, and then you'll have that one person just describe the lesson plan that you guys will do. Does that sound clear to you guys? Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay, so now it is 6:56 right now, so you have 1 hour. So work with your group, explore your topic on the website, and go at it. And so actually also, many of us will be circulating around if you guys have any questions, okay? Okay, groups, at this point, it's the 5-10 minute mark, so you should be finished exploring the website and maybe choosing a resource at this point. So just a reminder. Okay, group. So at this point, you should have chosen already a resource and should be delving into creating that lesson plan. Okay, I'll be going around and asking what kind of resource you've used so I can pull it up here. And then when one of you guys presents, I will have that already ready. Okay.
just gonna go around each table with the appetizers.
With the appetizers. Okay. All right. So, guys, I know you're a little hungry, so we're going to give you some appetizers coming to your table pretty soon. It sounds to me that a lot of you are almost finished. So, if we can maybe expedite this kind of process in maybe 10 minutes, we can wrap up and have the share session. That would be fabulous. Okay. Okay, guys, 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes. Just start wrapping things up, and then we'll have some time to share. Okay, everyone, let's finish up. So, let's have the kind of sharing session going on right now. So I just need one person from each group to just volunteer themselves to go and share a little bit about their lesson. Can we just set the order right now? Who wants to go first? Is there any takers for first? Okay, so stories and literatures will be first. Second? Oh gosh, okay, well, do you want to do rock, paper, scissors, or? Okay, so you guys, so animals and art will be number 2, and number 3 will be tea traditions, right? How about number 4? Okay, those folks in the back. And 5? 5, okay, beliefs, and then 6? Oh, thank you for volunteering. Will be the last one. Okay, so I'd like somebody to sacrifice themselves to come up here and talk about what they did. So, thank you. Okay, so. Okay, wonderful. Here. Oh, yeah, write it down. Go ahead. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Great, wonderful.
Hi, everyone. We're the group over there. So my name is Kaylee. And so what we decided to do is we decided to look at Japanese folktales. And the objective of our lesson was to read and analyze Japanese folktales to help understand history, traditions, and customs. And we were doing this to tie into world geography, which is taught in this area usually around 8th grade. So our online resource is we looked at Japanese folktales, and then we actually found a website that has it's like a kids version, so usually it's for 3rd to 6th graders, but we thought it was really cute because it had like an anime picture, like an animated picture, and it kind of broke it down easier for people to understand. And so our goal was to basically introduce the Japanese folktales, and we had some, I guess, concepts and some terminology that we thought would be important to go over in the beginning. We're going to break the students up into 3 to 4, and we had this idea that one of our group members gave where we would have the students actually look at the title and look at the picture, and before they read the folktale, they were going to come up with their own folktale and kind of give it some meaning and show what their meaning they thought was going to come from the lesson. So they could either make a story with like paper, and it was called Kamishia, yeah. Or the students were going to prepare a skit, and so the students would have time for this. This would probably take like a day or two, like the first day to do research and come up with their idea and practice or draw, and then the second day would be more of a day of sharing. And then the students would then read the folktale and see how it compared to the one that they came up with and looked at the meaning for that one. And then the next day we would all present, support one another and all that, and then we would have like a debrief at the end to show what they were supposed to get from the concept. And so the goal was just to look at the moral objective from the tales, what do the main characters represent, and things like that, and just what can we learn from Japanese history. So that was our group.
Thank you so much. That was really, really great. Okay, we are moving quickly. So group number 2, animals and art. Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
Hi guys. So our group was Animals and Art. And so for our idea, we were trying to look at how different cultures were analyzed and how differences in imagery and symbolism in art could depict differences in culture and activities in the region. So for our resource, we used the symbol of the dragon and tiger in Chinese and Japanese art. We had students go over the first day a KWL chart. So they would discuss their previous knowledge of Japanese culture and their own knowledge of what a dragon is, what a dragon looks like, what a tiger is, what a tiger looks like. And with the teacher, they would look at images, just observing to have like an objective opinion of what they saw in the image, not really comparing anything. And then the second day, they would get in like little discussion groups, and then they would compare the image. What do they like want to learn? So what do they see in the image? So in Western cultures, dragons live in the mountains. They're aggressive. They kidnap the prince or princess and keep them captive in caves and stuff like that. And then in Japanese culture, they have dragons looked at as deities. So they're over the water. They're very beautiful, very wise. And so we want students to see if they recognize these ideas and then put that in their KWL chart, but also in a Venn diagram, because we're comparing and contrasting and also seeing images. In addition, we're gonna have the images portrayed and then compare that as a class. And then for the third day, the students might go home or in class do their own research on different images or symbolism that they see in Western art and in Japanese art, maybe like a sword. So in Japan, it's a katana, or here it's a long sword. It's more big, more aggressive. And then they would present that to the class either in a formal or informal presentation or like in groups. And so the overall idea was we wanted them to compare and contrast the differences from imagery and symbolism of each culture.
Thank you. I really like the Venn diagram. That's great. Thank you. Okay, so thank you so much. The next group, can we have somebody come up too? This one, right? Okay, wonderful. Just plop it on. There you go. Great.
Okay. So we were tea traditions, but ours isn't really about tea, but it was under that category, so it connects somehow. So we were.
Hey, it works.
It works. So our lesson is transportation and technology over time. And so we're having the students learn about how technology influenced the evolution of transportation over time. Students will work in groups of 2 to 3 to create an interactive timeline, so that's the online component, and explain that to their classmates through a tableau, so arts integration and online integration. Our standard was 2.3 from history, so it's second graders. And so we're going to have them, the online resources are this one is a bridge with the trolley system, and then we also were going to post this picture, which doesn't have any explanation with it. It's just the roadway with the bullet train. So posting that picture along with this picture of the bullet train with no words or anything. So this is starting the class out with like just 2 pictures, and the students have to identify what's happening. And so they jot down what they think is going on in the pictures. And then after you do that as a class, talk about what's happening, and then you can go into detail about how the train was helping them recover from World War II and all kinds of things like that, and how technology came out of that, and how that was kind of like the transformative part, and like how it's evolved into today's transportation systems. That's not the same thing. So that's all like day 1. And then day 2, we figured they would create their timeline. So putting this all together and then including like American, like how the trolley system from this bridge picture evolved into like, we have trolleys as well. And then how trolleys evolved into like buses and cars and that whole thing. And so them creating a timeline on paper with their groups. And then the third day, they'll, second day, create the timeline and then make it online. And so it's the interactive part. So they'll have like the timeline, and then you click on one date and it pulls up all the information about it that the students would have written. And then the third day, they'll turn that timeline into a tableau and share it with their class. So then their classmate gets to learn about it as well. And they can kind of figure out what's happening with each group's timeline, because they'd all be a little bit different. Yeah.
Thanks so much. Okay, so the 4th group, festivals. Where is this? This one, right? This is the Bell video. Do you want me to play it? No, you don't have to. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so our group was discussing festivals, and so we were going to be doing a lesson that tied into standards in world geography, which would be with late middle or early high school students. And the standard we were focusing on would be applying the concept of a region and connecting cultural characteristics through regional details across the world. And so the resource that we used for this is a video about the Japanese New Year tradition of bell ringing, which is something they do to celebrate the new year. And so we had planned our lesson with like a quick introduction or warm-up where we would show a video of the probably most familiar American New Year's tradition of the countdown and the ball drop. And then we would have students do like a class-wide brainstorm of things that are familiar for them with New Year's, like what traditions they have and what they associate with New Year's traditions here. And we would make a list with that, and then we would watch this video, which explains the Japanese tradition, and then we would have a class discussion of what everyone learned and gathered from that. And then we would have students break into a small group where they would then do a sort of digital scavenger hunt to find research on the background information of the Japanese tradition and find more information about what cultural ties brought this tradition together and how it ties in with their New Year's celebrations. Then as a conclusion, the students would come back as a whole group and discuss what they all learned in their small group scavenger hunts. And then we would have them all individually write a brief in-class reflection of what they found out from this activity and then what connections they had, sort of comparing and contrasting their own personal experiences with everything that they learned about the Japanese culture here.
Okay, so the beliefs group.
Thank you. Hello. So we have beliefs. So for this sign, actually, why don't I ask? What does anybody know what the sign is? Anybody? Anybody? Okay. So that's actually what we'd ask our students for us to talk about. So this sign is a ritual for purification before going into a shrine. So and when you first look at it, we're going to talk about like how what part of it is like as when you leave the shrine as well, you kind of leave it better place for someone, like the water, you're leaving it better for the people that come. So we kind of tied into the world geography in the like politeness and traditions of things. So we'd ask students to kind of like, you know, like what do they think this sign is? What do you think it represents? And then we go into the discussion of, well, this is the purification process before a ritual, and then having students discuss what are some of their rituals when they go into a place of worship, or what are just some like courtesy rituals that we have in our society. So then students would then be able to create the kind of like assessment for it would be students would create their own signs for things that they think our society does that's courteous, and then like also kind of looking at you know, Japan's society of what they think is courteous, but also other world regions and what they find. So yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Great. And finally, our last group, warrior and government. So, okay.
Hi, so we have the warrior and government topic. So we use the SOL World History 1 describing Japan with emphasis on just the culture and how the Eastern Hemisphere's ancient cultures all impacted each other. So we focused on the samurai garb, if you will. So we decided that we would start off with a class discussion, like a think, pair, share of what they already know about ancient Japanese culture or samurai culture in general. And then we would use this resource. And there's actually another one on the resource itself that is labeled that describes like the significance behind each part. And then we would, for an arts integration, we would give out art supplies to all of the students, and then they would create their own samurai garb for themselves, and then kind of describe the significance behind all of the pieces to their own lives and cultures, just to kind of compare and contrast the differences. And then for the assessment, we decided that we would do sort of an exit ticket type idea where they would share 1 or 2 ideas that they took from the lesson. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, great. So, thank you guys. I've seen some really great ideas, and I really appreciate the hard work that you guys have done. And yeah, thanks so much. And we do kind of want to collect these lesson plans later, so I will bug you with the USB for them another time. But thank you so much, and I hope that you can eventually use this teachjapan.org research for the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody, and thank you, Marianne. All right, so we'll now move on to 3 minutes break, so hopefully that's enough time to munch on some appetizers there, and we'll move on to another networking event later, but we just wanted to give you 3-minute time just to unwind, and then we'll move on to a short lecture by Minae on the Japanese cuisine. So that's where we are right now, so yes, please take a break now. And please note, just one more note, sorry. There is a black thing in this red cups that you see, and that's actually soy sauce. It actually came in a giant container from the restaurant, so we just have to divide it up into small containers, so please don't drink it. It's very, very salty. So just a quick reminder. Thank you. All right, everybody, the evening is really long, and thank you very much for your participation so far. Just before we move on to Minae's presentation, could you join me in just standing up and then just doing a sort of a stretch here? However you like it, just to the right, to the left. Yeah, just move our bodies a little bit here. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. All right. So now I'd like to invite Ms. Minae. So she will give a presentation on Japanese cuisine. Here you go.
Konnichiwa. Thank you for konnichiwa back. I'm Mina Uehara. I'll go over there. I'm Japan Outreach Coordinator here at UMW. I came here last summer, and I'm gonna be here until in 2020. So it's very nice to meet you. Do you know, when you think of Japanese food, what kinds of food can you think of? Sushi, yes. Anything else? Okay. Oh, I have tempura, yeah. Okonomiyaki, yeah, that's actually Japanese food, yes. Ramen, yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I'm gonna make you more hungry. So, yeah, when you think of Japanese foods, those are popular food, and it's popular in and outside of Japan. But do we eat sushi every day in Japan? Not really. So I'm really excited about sushi later. So I'm going to be talking about Washoku, which means Japanese traditional food. So Washoku can be separated into two symbols, wa and shoku. First symbol is wa, which means Japan or Japanese. It also represents our harmony. So this word is used for words, peace, heiwa, and understanding, wakai. Next symbol is shoku. Shoku means to eat or food. And this word used for appetite, shoku-yoku, and dining table, shoku-taku. So, washoku blends each ingredient in harmony and satisfy all of your senses. There are 4 features of Japanese traditional food. The first is the use of ingredients are fresh and natural flavor. The second is the emphasis of the beauty of nature in artistic presentation. The third is cuisine's connection with seasonal events. In this picture, kids and adults are making sweet rice cake together. So it's our New Year's traditional event. The last one is washoku is nutritious and well-balanced diet. So look at the map. It's the archipelago of the country is widely stretched from north part to southern part. And do you know, can you guess how many islands in Japan? 100? More? Maybe no idea? 5 islands. Okay, nice try. 3,000 islands in Japan. So because of that, and also it's surrounded by water, and 70% of the country is covered by mountain area. That's why we have fresh and variety kinds of ingredients. So, in addition to the ingredients in diversity, we have food in season. It's called shun in Japanese. For example, if you look at the pink chart, the bamboo shoot, strawberry are the food in spring. Corn, pumpkin are for the summer. Potatoes, pears are for the autumn. Broccolis, spinach are for the winter. And another feature of Japanese food is to enjoy the beauty of nature and changing to have expression in dishes. So, what do you think? Look at the picture on the right side. What do you think which season it is? Spring, yeah. So it has flower and color of pink, green, white, the color for spring. What about the picture next to this? It's a lunchbox, and it's not made by a professional chef. Can you guess which season it is? They have autumn leaf, if you can see, yeah? So it expresses the season in autumn. So there are also features of connect with seasonal events. I would introduce main events in Japan. In January, we have Osechi to celebrate New Year's. In February, we have temaki-zushi. When you eat temaki-zushi, it's like a huge, big sushi roll. You have to look at a certain direction, and if you eat without talking or breaking it, it means it's believed that you will have a good luck. And in July, we have somen noodles to wish that we won't get sick or injured. And in December, we will have toshikoshi soba. Toshikoshi means to enter a new year. So we have that on December 31st. To wish for a long life. Do you know why we eat soba? Because soba is long, so we can live longer. It's a saying. Okay, so the last feature of Washoku is the balanced diet. So this is the typical type of meal in Japan. Ichiju sansai. It means one soup and 3 dishes. If you look at the character in the corner, it's 1 line and 3 line. Can you see that? Yeah, it means 1 soup and 3 dishes. So we usually have soup, rice, 1 main dish, 2 side dishes, or pickles, and those type of set meal can be served for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. As an example, let's take a look at the school lunch in Japan. It's not too obvious, but you can still see that they follow 1 soup and 3 dishes style. It's also cooked in school or nearby school. So it's very warm and fresh. Okay. So older days and nowadays. I have a picture in 1999, and picture on the right side, it's 2010. So in 1999, there are a lot of kinds of food on the table. They have fish, vegetable, potatoes, soup, and rice. On the other hand, there is only curry and rice. So one of the issues Japan is facing is one soup and three dishes style of meal is changing to one dish style. For some people, like for young people or people who live alone. It depends on people, but it's happening. But then in 2013, it was designated by UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage. Intangible cultural heritage is a part of cultures that, such as songs, music, dance, cuisine, that were passed on to generations. And this provides opportunity for people to think about the importance of Japanese traditional food, because these days, not a lot of people eat traditional food. So, again, there are 4 features of Japanese traditional food. The first one is seasonal ingredients. The second is artistic presentation. The third is connection with seasonal events. Fourth is balanced diet. So Washoku, overall, people respect the culture and appreciate it, and they coexist with nature. So I really like that how Japanese people think, and they pass down to generation. So eat well, live well. Thank you. It's dinner time. And I have one more. So this is my contact information, and I have a Facebook, UMW Japan, and my email address. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minae. So if you have any questions to follow up, please feel free to reach out to her email, and she'll also be on campus, so you know where to find her. So now, just be mindful of the time for the live stream viewers as well. I just wanted to move on to the closing remark by Takeshi. But before that, I have just a small reminder for all of you. There's a survey on your desk on each table. And then it would be really, really great if you could provide us with some feedback so we can improve this. To live stream viewers, we'll send out the link online later, so please take a note of that. And before we move on to the mingling part, I'd like to introduce you to Takeshi, Mr. Yoshida, who is the program director for Grassroots Exchange and Education at Center of Global Partnership. So it'll be great if you could. Yes, thank you.
Asuka. It'll be really quick. So again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm so excited to have seen your enthusiasm especially in the workshop. So I wanted to ask you, did you enjoy this event? Okay, thank you very much. And then I would like to thank all of you for your participation, not only in person, but also virtually. And also I would like to thank Dr. Christy Irish, your tremendous support. I really appreciate it. And so we'll be closing for this event, for especially people who are attending live streaming. So please say bye to them. Can you see? Okay. Thank you very much. So please enjoy your fun part after. So at the dinner is ready. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for all of your participation. Thank you.